Hello, Scrufftards. Welcome to the War Zone. I'm Scruffy, and this is Scruffy Tales. And it's been a couple of days, but I have been so under the weather. It's been insane. The coughing has been, it nearly broke me. Jesus Christ. Anyway, here we are back at it, and we're gonna, take a look at the front line. Things are happening in Kursk, not much happening at Kharkiv. Ukraine is holding the line at Kupiansk, and Russia is breaking itself with its slow advance at Pokrovsk. And that is basically what we will be taking a look at. So let's get on with it. Right, so here we have the ISW map, and the big changes appears to be here. Ukraine has secured territory up to Pokrovsk. We see this on other maps. Ukraine is in control of territory here between Malaya and Lochna and Novoivanovka. There's a forest belt with valleys. Other mappers have this area in Ukrainian control, but ISW now also confirms it. Russia claims to be in complete control of territory down here around the town of Plekovo up and to the river Pesel. Not unlikely that this is actually true, and I'll show you why in a bit, but that's basically it. So here in the north at Malaya Lochnia, Pogrebki, and Novoivanovka, Ukraine is having successes. They have been trying to push into Dorino down here, and south of Sucha around Plekovo, I should say, Ukraine has fallen back potentially according to Russian claims. And if we take a look at the Ukraine control map, let's see here on the 8th here you can see how Ukraine has secured the northern part of Pogrebki, and Russian claims of pushing in all across Plekovo. And here we have Dorino. Let's go back a bit. Here we have Ukrainian tank damaged in the middle of Dorino. You can see here as the Ukrainian assault began on the 3rd. By the 4th, we had a Ukrainian tank destroyed within Dorino. And then on the 8th, we have a Ukrainian Leopard abandoned out in this field as it was probably trying to reach Dorino. And also, take a look at this, Russian BMDs destroyed outside of Ubukovka, far away from the front line, as they were trying to reach Dorino. Let's head on over to Mayakovsk 73 and his map, and head on up to here we have Kursk. Here you can see Russian claims, and he agrees apparently that the territory around Plekovo has been lost. Ukrainian tank in the middle of Dorino, and take a look at all the Russian armor destroyed, leaving Ubukovka trying to reach Dorino. So quite clearly, Ukraine has made a big push trying to gain access to Dorino. If this territory is indeed contested, who knows? But we do know that Ukraine pushed in heavily with the 17th Heavy Mechanized Brigade, and if they got this far, it's not impossible that they are indeed holding on to territory in this part of town currently. And also up here, you can see that Mayakovsk 73 agrees with everyone else that Ukraine has reclaimed Pogrebki, and these are the valleys that ISW now also claims or confirms is in Ukrainian control, but other mappers have made those claims for quite some time. So, jumping to my map a bit, that would mean that down here, Plekovo is in Russian control, and Russia has pushed out all the way to the river here, river Pesel. And the reason is why this is very plausible is because they managed to secure the bridge up here and the highway going through the forest, cutting off Plekovo from the north. And that left Ukraine with only one option. This here is not a bridge. Zoom in, you see, I have no idea why the map says there's a bridge. There's clearly not a bridge. There is a bridge, however, down here outside of Goevo, right here. And that leads to, well, you can see the roads here. These are the dirt tracks, right? Mud tracks. This is not a good place to bring in reinforcements and logistics, and trucks and vehicles will just turn all of this to mud. So it was difficult for Ukraine to support the town and the positions in these forests. And that is why I think it is very much plausible that now Russia has actually managed to push Ukraine back to the river, and Ukraine has probably fallen back to this bridge and are preparing defenses of Goevo between Krylovka and Goevo to prevent the Russians from crossing the river or trying to come across these marshlands here. And like we pointed out, Ukraine has reclaimed Pokrovsk, a very important move. They are now back in control of this vital bridge here. So they are now in control of these bridges crossing the Malaya-Lochnia River. This bridge was blown by Russia. Here it is. This bridge was blown up when Russia tried to push along this highway to reach Malaya-Lochnia. They failed. But Ukraine is in control of this vital bridge as well as this one here at Pokrovsk. So they can now control the crossing points over this river, even if Russia has pushed down this way along the railroad here. I mean, Ukraine is in a position to potentially push them back north again. But very vital, Ukraine is forcing Russia to fall back. And fighting keeps on going in Novaivanovka. And then we have Darino, where we saw a massive barrage at this part of town. Then Ukraine came in here, made it as far up as this position, at least where we saw a destroyed tank. Maybe they moved beyond further north. And then we had a Ukrainian vehicle destroyed out on this road or mud track here going across these fields. So there appears to be heavy fighting going on in Darino still. And it wouldn't surprise me if Ukraine has positions in these buildings and these forests, trying to push up along the river here to gain access further north into town, would be my guess. Or if they're trying to push in this way to isolate this industrial area here, maybe. We'll see what happens. But that seems to be the case, or situation rather, in Kursk. And I mean, as it appears now, Ukraine reclaiming Pokrovsk, pushing into Darino. They are on a roll here in the north. And meanwhile, they are abandoning positions in the south here at Plekovo that they could not hold on to, essentially, since Russia managed to secure this vital bridge and the highway here. So yeah, that is Kursk at the moment. And if we use deep state here, or the map will show essentially the same thing. We're going to use deep state here. Not much going on here. North of Kharkiv. Russia has been slowly falling back. Ukraine has been very slowly gaining territory outside of Khlyboki here on this big hill. Russia fell back from crossing here into the swamps. They are still, or rather was it up here? Maybe it was somewhere here. We had big swamps where they crossed the river. There's still, oh, that's where the swamps were. Confused. This is where the swamps were. This is where they crossed. They fell back. They still hold territory here. My damn throat. This is not strange. I'll show you why. I don't want you. Away you go, and away you go. And the reason why Russia is still holding territory here is because it's difficult to push in, as you can see. I mean, if you gain control of the territory here right below these cliffs, I mean, Ukraine can only move in through this narrow point between the cliffs and the river. Same thing from the north, and then cross these wide open fields and fight their way down this valley here. So it's a very defendable position for the Russians. The problems for the Russians is that it's just as difficult to push out. Ukraine needs only to hold this point here, and make sure that no Russians crosses these big wide open fields. And then Russia can't leave. So that is why Russia probably is still in control of this part of the territory to the west of the Oskil here. They can hold because it's easily defendable, but they can't leave because Ukraine can easily defend all the access points or the approaches where Russia wants to push out from. So that is why. Meanwhile, up here, it was nothing but marshlands. Russia got across, and then what? There was no way they could move on, and Ukraine probably just bombed the hell out of them, moved in with some troops, and Russia had to fall back. Seems not unlikely. So that was at Kupiansk. Russia hasn't really made any more moves here. They tried to reach the center of the Kupiansk urban area, got kicked back. Not that much has changed here. They made it to the Oskil. They are now trying to reach this road here from Svatove, as you can see here, moving all the way to Borova. Seems they have been stuck for a couple of days. They made it this far to Peshutravnevne, made the push out here, but not much else going on here. And then, of course, we are down here at Pokrovsk, where Ukraine pushed Russia out of Novy Komar. According to ISW, Ukraine is also in Rozdolne. As you can see here, Hanivka is in real trouble. I don't know, Ukraine might consider leaving before they get encircled. Maybe there is communication problems. Maybe they can't communicate properly and they are not aware that they are about to be surrounded. Could be the reason this is happening. But this does not look like a good situation for the Ukrainians, obviously. And yeah, Russia is pushing in towards Shevchenko, very crucially so. From Shevchenko, they can launch assaults into Pokrovsk eventually. But we really need to stress and highlight just how ineffective this assault in towards Pokrovsk has been. Right, so here's Avdiivka. Russia began their assault on Avdiivka 14 months ago, and they began the invasion right in February 2022, almost 3 years ago, from this line here. So how far is it in 14 months from Avdiivka to Shevchenko? 53 kilometers. And from Marinka to Shevchenko, that's 42 kilometers. Yeah. But anyway, what they have done, though, since they began taking Avdiivka, is push out all the way over here, and they pushed out towards Velika Novosilka, and they've taken Vuhledar. And what they have done is taken something roughly like this. Bear with me, it's rough estimates, right? So this is what they've gained ever since they began assaulting Avdiivka and pushing out towards Pokrovsk and Velika Novosilka and Kurakove. So something like so. Let's see here. Rough estimate of Russian advances. And let's see here. So, like so, something. Let's see, let's adjust a bit. So, and up. Something like this. Something like that. Now let's connect. So, okay. So now we are at 2,500 square kilometers. Usually when I make this, it ends up being 2,000. So let's go with 2,500. This is what they have gained in 14 months. 14 months. Over a year of struggle, and they have lost an insane amount of troops. An insane amount of troops. It's what 3,000 a month, and lately they lost around 4,000 troops. I mean, a month. It's or yeah, or on a daily basis. Sorry, I'm tired here. So 40,000 troops in a month. I mean, that's just insane. It's insane losing those amounts of casualties per day and per month. And what does this add up to? Let me show you. I mean, if you watch my videos before, you've seen me make this example. This is Luxembourg. Take a look. Tiny, tiny Luxembourg. And here you have Europe, Germany, France, and we have Belgium and Netherlands, England. This is tiny Luxembourg. What has Russia managed to conquer in 14 months? Luxembourg. That is what they've achieved in 14 months. With how many casualties? How many people have died to conquer this territory over here in Ukraine? Right here. I mean, this is not a glorious advance. This is not a masterfully performed military achievement. This is a joke. If we take a look at campaigns and wars throughout history, this is a complete slaughter, a waste of manpower and equipment. This should have been conquered in a couple of days, in a week or two. But Russia has been stuck for 14 months, moving from Avdiivka to Shevchenko, from Alexandrivka to Kharkov, from wherever south of Vuhledar, eventually to Vuhledar, I should say, and then to Velika Novosilka. 14 months. They have achieved barely anything, nothing. Now this is proof of either extreme Russian incompetence or a very, very effective Ukrainian defense, or both. Extreme Russian incompetence combined with a very effective Ukrainian defense. And this is what you get. Barely any gains at all, and massive amounts of losses. And it's just insanity. Complete insanity. What's going on here? And I mean, it is in the end proof of that. Yes, Russia is forcing Ukraine back, but Ukraine is falling back in an orderly fashion. They are not breaking. They are not falling apart. They are still holding the line, moving from one defensive spot to the next. This is defense at depth, and this is how it functions in a modern war. When the enemy overpowers you, you hold for as long as possible and then fall back to the next defensive position, holding the line, inflicting incredible amounts of casualties before you fall back. And Russia is just falling for the trap every time. And the only reason Russia is advancing is because they have that they have more troops and that they have more vehicles. But they're not utilizing them in a smart way. They are utilizing them in an extremely inefficient way. And that is why this insane push here at Pokrovsk might actually favor Ukraine, because Ukraine is whittling down the Russians to such a heavy extent that when it's time to move in on Pokrovsk and Myrnorad, I mean, Russia might lose the war pushing in here. This might become the Stalingrad of the Ukraine war. Because in Pokrovsk and in Myrnorad, everything favors the defender. Everything favors Ukraine once the fighting begins in these two cities. I mean, take a look. Toretsk. How long has Russia been fighting here in Toretsk? Barely had any success at all. And it's, same thing here. Chasiv Yar, I mean, the list goes on. You can go up to Vovchansk, right? Kupiansk. I mean, we saw Russia trying to move in here through urban environments, and they got just schwacked and unable to do anything. Bakhmut is obviously a clear example, and well, Avdiivka. I mean, it's all of those battlefields will be nothing compared to the horrors within Myrnorod and Pokrovsk. So all of this here is whittling down the Russians, forcing Russia to waste manpower and equipment and resources at such a level, such a scale, that when it's time to push in on Pokrovsk and Myrnorod, the fighting in here might actually break the Russian army. And I think that is the Ukrainian plan at the moment. And that's the end of this video. I think I will make another video with some news updates as well, because why not? Random stuff in that video. But that's it for the maps, and hope you found it interesting. I hope I'll see you in the next one. And as always, go på marsch, Ukraine, and give them hell.